right here, sing for the few.
The game is yours to play now.
The light provides.
This is Eventide Radio.
You know, in the Dark Ages, we didn't have entertainment. Had to wire effects head just to listen to Eventide Radio. Dark times, brother. But, yeah, we did pass the time by banking rooms.
Hello and welcome back to Eventide Radio. This is a fan-made Destiny podcast where we have roundtable discussions about a variety of different topics concerning the popular video game franchise. At its core, this show is by having in-depth discussions about the game from a variety of different perspectives. I'm your host, Scotty, and with me are my co-hosts, Rob and Mapador, and today we are continuing our discussion from our previous episode about the latest expansion, Renegades. So in the last episode, I believe we covered pretty much just the campaign. It was kind of a shorter episode. So in this one, we're just kind of freewheel it and get to as much other stuff as we can because there's quite a bit to talk about. We have to talk about the Lawless Frontier, which includes all those different activities, the new social space, the dungeon, etc., etc. So we're going to get into all of the meat and potatoes of all that. But as always, before we do, Rob, what have you been up to this week in Destiny?
Not a lot. And we'll kind of get into this a little bit as we go through. Like it's been kind of slow going. I think Renegades brought a lot of momentum. There was the new dungeon, which was pretty good. And we'll talk about that. We even did a play along stream. And the Lawless Frontier activity was good. The campaign was fun. The exotic mission for the Praxic Blade was pretty good. It was all around pretty good. But it's just, we're kind of at that point where the cadence sort of, tends to drop off and everyone's kind of sitting around waiting for the next piece of content to come out, whether it's a new exotic mission or some new activity or something like that. So I've been actually playing other things. Everyone will kind of know at the time of this recording, like, Diablo 2, a game that is 25 years old, got a new character, ironically called the Warlock. So I've been still playing a Warlock, but just in a different game. And before we started recording, we were talking about a buddy of mine that I kind of convinced to play Destiny 2, and we did it for a while when Edge of Fate first dropped. And he came from playing WoW and sort of was, we were drawing a lot of comparisons between the two games. And so he convinced me. So I actually started playing WoW for the very first time this week, just because I've never played it before. And I kind of wanted to have the perspective of, what are kind of the differences between Destiny and WoW, because a lot of people make comparisons in a lot of different ways. And so a couple buddies were like, hey, we're going to start playing WoW Classic. And this one friend of mine was like, oh, you should definitely play, because he played a lot. And so I've actually been playing WoW. I'm embarrassed to admit, and I don't hate it, but I'm also not very too deep into it to like really form a true opinion. Unlike a lot of people that like play a game for like an hour and then just call it quits. I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt and really kind of see like what people like about it, and so I've been doing that.
Sweet.
Yeah,
sounds fun.
Yeah,
always good to take a break.
Yeah, try other things.
Matt, what have you been up to this week?
Destiny wise, I checked Eververse. That was it. I don't even remember. I don't even remember what was there, to be honest. But no, I've been playing Overwatch as normal.
Oh,
but the
all right, that one I cannot get behind. I'm sorry.
Hold on a minute. At the time of the update, at the time of recording this, there was the big yearly massive overhaul thing that they do at the start of the year, and they added 5 new characters. So I have been playing a character that is a bit like Destiny 1 Sunsinger Warlock, who called Anran, who is fire based and her ult is a self-resurrect, or she has 2 ults. If you die, you can self-resurrect. So
wow,
that's been fun. I've been enjoying that. And Blizzard did what Bungie should have done a while ago and dropped the 2.
Yeah, true.
So we'll get into your we'll dive deeper into your hatred of Overwatch later, Scotty. I'm interested to see where that came from. But
that's a subject for a different topic. But you know what? Whatever makes you happy, and I'm glad you're enjoying Overwatch.
It sounds like fucking hell.
It's so
Fucking hell.
passive aggressive.
Yeah.
As far as me, I also have not been playing Destiny. I've been playing what have I been playing? The free to play fighting game based on League of Legends 2XKO.
I thought for a second you were going to say you were playing High Guard.
No.
Well, not anymore. He's not.
No. I was playing 2XKO is pretty fun. I'm not really a fighting game guy, but I thought the animation looked really cool, and it was free to play on console. And I'm like, what the heck? I'll give it a shot. And that's been a lot of fun. It's been a big change of pace from stuff that I'm used to playing typically. But it's been cool. I recommend it. It's a shame about the current situation with the layoffs and all that. But it's still worth giving it a shot.
That's like the gaming industry in a nutshell. The last 6 years or something.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I think the other week or something, Riot announced only a couple weeks after 2XKO's launch, they're like, yeah, we're cutting down the 2XKO team by like half. And everyone's like, oh.
Do we think
game over?
Do we think that as soon as Marathon comes out, they're gonna
downsize the Destiny team?
Even more. No, I meant just Bungie. I didn't mean specifically Destiny team, but
I don't know.
I'm wondering if they'll have
It's an interesting theory. It seems like it's kind of
Yeah.
par for the course for a lot of these games. I think are not doing well. I think we don't have to go into this too much. I have high hopes for Marathon. I think there's a pretty big group of people that are definitely going to play it day one. And I don't see this being a High Guard or Concord situation. I know a lot of people were sort of hoping for that. And I think this has way more just the Bungie name alone. I know they've maybe sort of lost some goodwill with people just with Destiny for the last 10 years. But I think there's a lot of people that are going to come out of the woodworks because it's like it's a new Bungie PvP thing. Like it's just innately going to get some traction at the beginning at least. Now whether or not that has staying power remains to be seen, but I think day one's going to be pretty big for this game. For Marathon.
Yeah.
So
I'm hoping. I think it looks pretty cool. I've seen a lot of like vitriol towards it online, but I think that is probably the case for like any game ever these days, unfortunately. So I'm hoping to play it day one. It seems pretty cool. So but let's talk about Destiny. So there's plenty of stuff we haven't talked about. I know we haven't really been playing it a whole lot lately collectively, but when I was playing actively, I was having a good time, and I think we were all having a pretty decent time based on our last conversation. But the biggest thing that came out with Renegades, if we're going back in time a little bit, back to when it dropped, was the Lawless Frontier activities, plural, ? Kind of hard to describe.
right.
But it's a cool system where you can take on a number of different like I don't know, bounty hunting jobs in a sense.
Yeah, there's like
they're not all
smuggling
bounty hunts, but yeah, there's like there's like sabotage or whatever. They're all kind of similar, but they're like different objectives. I'd say it's like a 30-minute, three-person match-made activity kind of thing. And it's pretty cool. You can kind of choose where to go based on your goals as far as what like missions you want to complete. So you can choose like which syndicate you want to align with and kind of progress your reputation with them.
right.
And you can choose which jobs you want to take on based on the contracts available and how you want to rank up the syndicates. And when you rank up your syndicates, you get different abilities and things. For example, if you align with the Cabal Syndicate and you rank up to a certain point, you can get like a freaking ATST that you can drop in.
Right.
during Lawless Frontier activities, which is super fun. And then the other half of the Lawless Frontier activity is the PvP side, in the sense that you can invade other people's missions, and you have to get like 5 kills or something like that, including not 5 kills, but 5 total points. And it's kind of like Supremacy. They drop crests, you pick them up, you score an extra point, kind of thing. And you drop in, you can bring all of the different renegade abilities that you've collected over your exploits across the galaxy, and you can jump in and screw up their mission. And it's pretty fun, and you get rewarded for that. There's like exclusive rewards for the invasion part of things there as well. I think it's pretty cool. I was having a good time with it, and I think there's a little something for everyone based on your playstyle available to you. But Rob, what did you think of the Lawless Frontier activity? How much did you engage with it? Was it something that you found yourself playing a lot, or was it something that kind of got repetitive quickly?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I ended up playing it quite a bit, and that's still kind of when I do log in, I end up kind of gravitating towards that. They made some very intentional choices that I think were very clever, in that if you pledge allegiance to one of the syndicates, depending on what contract you do and what planet you do it on, and whatever there's like always each day there's like a hot spot where there's more activity, and some of the contracts force you to sort of like do the more, like it's faction controlled in that area, and it's contested. That's the word I'm looking for. And depending on what you do and which options you choose, I think maybe the one complaint, I think there's too many active at any given time, where it's kind of like, it's like, which one do you choose, and because you have all these contracts and you kind of want to optimize, like, oh, maybe you can complete 3 contracts in one run, because it's like, oh, it's do a sabotage on Venus and make sure you're with the Pikers or whatever. Like, you can get all 3 of those knocked out in one run, which is pretty cool. But I think there's still sort of like, there's times where I kind of got like paralysis of like, which one do I choose? And it's like, I could have gotten halfway through one of these in the time that I was like sitting there freaking out about which one I should choose to be optimal, But overall, I like that I like that the settings are kind of like the activities you do, and like each map has kind of 2 major areas that feel very kind of distinct from each other. And again, going back to like the Star Wars theme, like Venus has very much like a Dagobah aspect to it, and then a little bit of a Yavin 4 type feel as well, kind of the foresty type settings. And then obviously Mars has like very much the Tatooine type look to them. And what's the other one? Jakku, unfortunately, but we won't talk about that. And then obviously like you have what is undeniably Hoth, which is cool, and I the Echo base kind of feel, which I think is great. But ultimately, what I was getting to with all of this is when you do all these different combinations, even though you are pledging allegiance to one of the factions, you are still sort of passively ranking up the other 2 potentially on the side. And so it felt very much like, people always talk about like respecting the player's time. And there's been, it's like going all the way back to like D1, where it's like you pledged allegiance to one of the factions in the city, and you were only getting reputation with them. And and it was kind of like, okay, once you hit your 20 ranks or whatever with them, so you can try to get the shader, then you move over to one of the other ones. And it kind of like, this feels like, if you can choose which gang you like the most, just either for like the aesthetic reason, or like you actually like the ideology of the Vex that wear jeans versus the Piker gang or whatever. But you're at least getting reputation with the other ones, so it doesn't feel like you have to only focus on them. Like I think it was clever. I think it works really well. And as a result, I have almost maxed ranked all 3 of them. I think I'm like halfway through the last one. But I like nice. all the rewards that you get with them, the shaders, the upgrades to the kind of the planetary effects and abilities, the shader that you get at the end, you get like upgrades to your lightsaber blades, some of the weapons that you can start kind of focusing on in their specific area. Like all of this is really good. We've seen it, we've seen this before in the past. This is not the first time we have factions that you rank up and get rewards based on your rank, but kind of the way they went about it, I think, is probably the best iteration of it, where you're working on all three simultaneously. The rewards feel good. There's sort of like an actual, again, if you align with the ideology of one, I think it's all kind of like, it leads into the kind of the story and the fun of doing all of these things. And I think this is probably the strongest part of the Renegades kind of era of Destiny, in that I think we're being a smuggler really works in, I think that's how you can take something like the Star Wars IP and gracefully integrate it into Destiny, is like, yeah, we've done smuggling type things with the Drifter before, so this all kind of works, and I think it really it leans into one of the fun fantasy parts of the Destiny kind of universe very, very well and organically, and I think I love doing all of that to say I like doing the lawless frontier stuff because it works so well, and you're free to kind of play however you want, right? There's not champions. And, you can try to go more for an ad clear type thing, or you can screw around with a lightsaber, and there's a lot of freedom of play, which I think has been kind of one of the complaints for a lot of seasonal activities, is sometimes it's like you feel like you're forced to do kind of play a certain style, again, because of champions and things like that. And I think this does a great job of like, you can take whatever build you want in there and have a fun time. And it's not super strict on, like, obviously you need to still be paying attention, especially if you're doing like the GM level. And so, like, there's a little bit of like, you have to be paying attention. The invasion part is great. It feels like what Gambit should eventually sort of manifest as. I think it's like a really cool iteration on that as well, of the PvEVP type thing. Like, all of it is really, really fun. I think my only real actual complaint is I think it's the smuggling. There's like a sub variant in there where you have to take the boxes, and you're like encumbered when you're carrying them, and you have to like dump them in the boxes along the way. Otherwise, if you get seen, you have to like start over.
The inspector.
Yeah, I just don't like when the movement of the game just comes to a complete screeching halt, and you have to like, when sometimes the game, like, I love Destiny, but we also have to acknowledge that there are times where the network stuff gets kind of snappy and weird, and like characters just sort of like disappear and reappear, and it's like requiring that kind of precision when there's like so much chaos, and you have to like kind of like, it just, I don't like the pacing of it. Like, it feels like it just completely slows everything down. So I would change that activity to like allow you to run, or I would do something different. Like, I get the spirit of what it's trying to do with like the smuggling, fantasy of it. I just think it's implemented very poorly. That's the only one where when it comes up, I like, I like dread it so much. But otherwise, I really like it.
Fair.
I like most of the variants. I like all the different things you do. It still ultimately comes down to you killing a bunch of enemies in a specific sequence, or like standing on a platform or plate or something like that. But it does it in fun locations. It does it with fun enemies, like things like when you're in the treetop area of Venus, where you have to kind of navigate amongst all these like bridges and fight enemies on these little narrow areas. Like, that's kind of cool. It's different. It's fun. Yeah. It's scary when a hyper chicken just sort of appears and starts attacking you on this narrow bridge. It's good. I like it.
I agree. I think the renegade abilities add to it. And make it a little more interesting, even though I forget half the time that I have them, because I'm like so like used to a certain like play style. I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot I have a drop shield
aerial
basically or something. Yeah, exactly. But I like that you brought up the syndicate system, because I for one really like kind of the RPG role playing aspect of it, and where it's like, oh, I get to like pick the syndicate that like I like the most from like a narrative perspective even, and that's kind of fun,
right?
But it is good that they all kind of progress passively, but I don't know, I love like in games where you get to make choices, even if they're not that consequential per se. It's fun to like, I don't know, align your character with a certain group or something like that. I just think that's kind of a cool concept.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot too. I've been a hardcore Tharsis Reformation dude because my goat Zephyrus is a legend. But Map, what about you? Have you been
it's not something I've engaged with a whole lot of
that much? Yeah, that's fair.
It was I finished the campaign and was doing bits here and there, and I did play it a bit, but it felt like I was just kind of playing more of the story stuff, but without the story. Which I mean, that's Destiny in a nutshell. A bit over it now. It's more to do with what I'm getting out of it, if that makes sense, rather than the like, I'm not saying that the content is bad or the actual rewards in terms of, I just don't like the systems in place currently around armor and gear. It's just not, I'm not a fan of it. So
no, that's understandable. It's a looter shooter. It's, the gear is a big part of it. But you bring up a interesting topic I want to touch on. Do you guys like the new weapons? Because personally,
the weapons are cool. I think they've integrated Star Wars things into Destiny very, very, very well.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't be better.
Yeah.
My issue is I really fucking cannot. I'm done with the tiered loot. I just can't be bothered.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's understandable.
We've basically speed run through what the issue was before. Where people go, what's the point of greens and whites and blues, because everyone just uses legendaries.
Right.
It's like, well,
Sure.
What's the point of tier 1, 2, 3, 4? Like, okay, maybe 4 is fine, but what's the point of tier 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah.
They like, and then in like, it feels like in a few months' time, or in so long, it'll be like, oh, we're getting rid of tier 1 and 2,
right, 3
loot. We're gonna change. It's gonna be called something else, and it's just the same thing again. And I'm a bit like,
Sure. I get that, because they made 4 and 5 more accessible, like a lot more accessible.
Yeah,
than
which
Edge of
was
Fate.
good.
Yes, but then at a certain point in the story, or not the story, but like after I finished the campaign, I found myself getting 4 and 5 pretty frequently, and I have really good 4 and 5 rolls and things like that, and I'm like, all right, well, anytime I get a 1, 2, or 3 drop of this weapon, it's just
an
getting
auto
instantly dismantled.
Yeah,
because it is just objectively worse than what I already have. Because I have like a tier 5 weapon that has like 3 of those rolls or whatever already, and it's like just completely irrelevant. And it just turns into gunsmith materials that I'll never use.
I feel like that is part of the problem. A small problem of the game is like what I was saying the other day about it being like Yu-Gi-Oh, where there's all these systems on top of systems to keep long-term people happy, like us. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, now it's so bloated.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's I don't care for that.
Right.
And
I think, and I know they've already kind of throttled back on this, but getting an innate like damage bonus and damage resistance based on the tier of armor that you wear immediately, even if it's like, it was like 15 or 10% before, and now it's like down to 5, which is, not insignificant, but it's not nearly as impactful. Like, I think also sort of just, it makes you not want to use any of the older weapons potentially, because it's like, well, this automatically does 5% more damage than this other hand cannon because it's newer and has the 5-star. And yeah, it's everything's on auto dismantle, and it's power creep to like the nth degree when it really didn't need to be like that. And I ultimately agree with like having the armor also just I wish they kind of just, I'm glad they did the armor shift with like the more kind of spiky stats and the min-maxing and the set bonuses. I know some of the set bonuses are kind of lackluster, and I'm glad that they're not so OP though that it's like you have to use this set that you can't acquire anymore, otherwise your build is worthless. Like I'm glad they're not doing anything like that. because that really will kill kind of like build crafting to a certain degree, where it's like, oh, I can't get this tech set anymore. This build is like worthless or whatever. It's also kind of stupid that they've already like started making sets not attainable anymore, which is a bad idea. Like it's just, this was poorly executed. The tier system just should not have like been created, or it shouldn't be 5 tiers. At most it should be like 3 tiers or something like that, because now it's just you've made what 80% of the loot just worthless now, and it's like you get to a point where unless you're getting tier 5s, you're not even looking at the gear, and like that's not a good system when like but unfortunately the cat's out of the bag, so I don't know how you fix this. And that's kind of the problem, is like every time they add one of these new systems, it's like, well, now we have adept weapons, so how do you go back from that? But adepts were really not that game breaking. It just had like, it really seemed like
extra like plus 10 range,
right? Or maybe had one extra perk, but now these have 3 perks in each column, and it's like, what? Like on one level, it kind of helps with the vault situation, but I still think that crafting fixed that problem. And like was not an issue. I if anything, crafting I think kept people playing activities longer than this, because now it's like I get a tier 5 weapon that has the 3 combos that I want on it. I'm done. Like I don't need any more. Whereas at least crafting, you had to keep playing until you got all of the red borders. Like I think the average playtime had to have been higher during that time. Maybe I'm wrong. It just like it's. I don't know. It's in a weird
feel like
spot.
crafting ultimately, I think, had the same issue as the tier system, in the sense that there's like this pinnacle ultimate version of like a weapon, right. And as soon as you get it, it's just everything else becomes irrelevant.
Right, but it did fix the problem of, if in a few years or in a year from now they change how some of those perks work, weapon crafting also solves that problem, because then you can like rangefinder on hand cannons, right? That used to be the perk you wanted on hand cannons, and then they fundamentally changed how rangefinder worked, and everyone's like, well, I don't want rangefinder, and it's like, well, now I can recraft my hand cannon to have the perks that I want. And so it's like, it sort of future-proofs older weapons from potentially still being like useful at later times, because now I can swap the perks around, or I can experiment a little bit. Whereas like this, right, you get the tier 5 weapon that is good now, but in a year from now, maybe those perks aren't good, but weapon crafting solved that problem.
True.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's fair.
It is an odd one. But it just puts me off the game.
Oh,
like, that in a whole just. Yeah.
Well, I don't think you're alone. There's a lot of the people that I used to play with have not touched this game since Edge of Fate, or like they played the Edge of Fate campaign, saw what the grind was at that time to get to what it would take to start getting tier 5 loot, and then saw that like the end game is just getting tier 5 loot, and they're like, nah, I'm good. Like this isn't interesting. This isn't this isn't pushing the envelope in any interesting ways. I guess, okay, so we should probably talk about this, because I think the other big buzz right now is everyone's talking about D3 being back on the table again.
The elephant in the room.
The elephant, the
Address
three-legged
Address
elephant.
me.
I don't know what to think anymore about a D3.
I think if Bungie, they haven't had a successful launch for a game. D1 was not good, and the D2 launch started good and then fell flat on its ass after walking up 2 steps.
Right.
If they nail the marathon launch, then they can do a Destiny 3 launch, right? But they need that. They need the buzz around something new, not a new expansion, but a new launch.
Yeah. Because
new people will try it.
Right.
Because if you go, I'm doing a sequel, the people who went, Destiny's been out for too long, I don't want to get into it. If they made WoW 2, right, you would have been more likely to try it. Right. I know you've tried it now.
You're absolutely right. Yes.
And so where it's been going on for 10, like Destiny's been going on for 10 years. I know Destiny 1 was part of that, and there was the changeover. But it's nearly 10 years since, Destiny 2.
Right.
And we need a new like launch.
Yeah.
I don't see how you're going to get new people to play this game. I know so many younger people who are like, yeah, I know of Destiny. I'm going to try it. Not because, all right, some have heard bad things, but they just think the game's been going for too long. That's too difficult to get into. Like when I made the comparison to like getting into card games like Yu-Gi-Oh or something.
Right.
It's true. There's too much stuff. There's too much bloat. We need a new launch.
Yeah.
I think that's.
Blow up the tower.
I'm more likely to play it. I'm more likely to play it. It's a new game.
Right.
I got new I've done the song and dance in Destiny 2. I've done it. I've so the new stuff isn't interesting because I've done loads of stuff in that game. Right. Look at the biggest Destiny 2 content creators. They I know it's at a low point, but people are starting to move on because not only is these people, I'm not saying Bungie needs to make a D3 for content creators, but a lot of what people look at and what a lot of people play a lot of the time on social media is down to who's playing what.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And look, right. Okay. I'll give High Guard, for example, massive meme launch. Right.
Right.
But streamers played it because they thought this is probably going to be bad, but I want to be there for that.
Right.
Right. So we had this massive. They had like 150,000 was their highest concurrent player count, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, the game was not very popular. It wasn't like there were things missing. It should have gone into early access and not been a 1.0 launch at all. Right, but a lot of some of that buzz was people talking about it online. Right, Destiny doesn't have that at all. Like a new expansion comes out, it's like, oh, big whoop.
Right. Well, I think that the response is people are like, people still play that game. Like that's kind of
I see that for other games that I'm like, I just see that on the internet in general for other games that are still relevant and popular. Like people are just odd, but yeah, most people I know who when they hear Destiny now, they, from a younger generation, they're like, oh, that game. They might not have anything bad to say about it, but they just don't want to touch it because it's been going on for too long.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need a new entry point, and if they're not going to fix the new light system, which I don't think would fix that whole problem anyway, then they need a new game.
The problem with doing a new launch is that there's a solid 50% of people that will absolutely lose their shit if they lose all of their previously earned loot and things, right? Like all the people who have stayed committed to this game, they're going to be like,
I'm at that point where I'm like, fine, I'm happy to lose my stuff.
Yeah.
I can go and play D2 if I want to. If I want to go and use that gun, I can go and use that gun in that game. Like, I miss certain things on Destiny 1, but I don't go and boot up the game. I don't have it installed. I'm like, oh, it's a nice memory.
Yeah, I just feel like we're gonna if they do another launch, it's just gonna turn into like the same situation that we have now, and
that's why I was saying if they
D2 apologists,
I miss
Destiny 2.
But if they can nail the marathon launch, then I'm saying I would feel more confident for them doing a new launch.
Yeah,
it's but I feel like they're taking extra care of that because of what happened.
Right. Yeah, I think they have sort of learned their lesson on hopefully on launch and how to I think High Guard more than anything shot itself in the foot by like not marketing that game. Like we got the one trailer at the Game Awards.
Well, they wanted to shadow drop it, and then
but it's like
Jeff Keighley was like, "Let me advertise it for you." That wasn't in their plan.
Yeah, but even then, shadow dropping it, I don't think would have helped it, right? Like it maybe would have gotten a little bit of buzz, but like a game like that needed to be sold on. Like I had no idea what it was about. I just saw it was like a first-person sort of medieval shooter on horses, and I was like, nah, I'm good. But maybe if there was more trailers and things to actually like get people excited about, there might have been more interest in it. But it just completely like failed miserably. But I agree with what you're saying. I still stand by, and I know we've kind of talked about this at various times in the past when this rumor has shot up, where it's like I think the Eververse thing is going to be a huge problem for a lot of people, because this is not, 2 years worth of cosmetics that were purchased. This is almost 10 years of cosmetics that people have been purchasing in D2 and sunk a lot more money into, and I think it's just going to be a much harder pill to swallow. I agree with you. If you want to go back and play it, you still can, in the same way that I still go back and play D1 once in a while, and that stuff is still there. Not that I put money in the Eververse there, but it's just like those items are still there. I can play around with them. I fundamentally worry that I've said this before, like, when are they going to get to a point where it's like, oh, Vogue is going to come back in D3? Like I worry that they're going to run
but
out.
when I say a sequel, like an actual sequel,
sure,
not not this, we're going to bring things back. No, like it's that's it. It's new stuff.
Right. I
can't do this
with what we saw with D2. I don't think that's going to happen, right? I think we're going to get Mida Multi-Tool again, and Icebreaker again, and Galahorn for the third time, or fourth time, you could say.
I think that a lot of the problem is every time they've done a Destiny launch, there's something obviously has happened behind the scenes. Like D1, the story was rewritten and a load of shit was changed. Destiny 2, there was loads of scrapped stuff and issues around that. Like, it was originally going to come out, originally we weren't going to have Rise of Iron.
Right.
Originally that was D2, and it was delayed, and then I'm sure other stuff happened that we don't know about, that in about a few years' time there'll be a book about or something. They need to launch with enough content.
Right.
So not just one raid.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean about the raid situation. They need to have more than one raid in, the first year.
Yeah, it needs to have. It also, I think, needs to separate itself from this. Almost in a way, our character in this game needs to die or retire or something, and this needs to not be I think if it's going to be something more grandiose, I think it needs to be oh, there's other races you can play, Fallen that are light bearing, or Cabal that are light bearing, and I people kind of talk about leaning more into the RPG elements, but I think that's what it really needs to do. There needs to be an attempt to our character sort of stays in D2, and D3 jumps forward a huge area of time where it's it's still in the same universe, but we're sort of separating ourselves far enough from the events that we're not worried about if we're going to get Vogue for the third time dropped in, where it's the understanding and sentiment around the game needs to be this is removed from D1 and D2. This is a new and I think that would make it a little bit more accepting, where it's stop asking for, we don't want Mida Multi-Tool back. We don't want these things that we've gotten back over and over again. That really got to you, didn't it? D2 launch. Yeah, exactly. Where it's I mean, that was what one of the opening quest exotics, in the game after you beat the campaign, where it's oh, we're just right back into Mida Multi-Tool. Cool.
It was optimal to farm not farm it, but for light level at the start of D2, you would leave the exotic quests and you do them across your characters.
Right.
Do you remember? I remember this.
Oh yeah.
Thing for that.
Right. And they just need to we don't need Hawkmoon again. We don't need Thorn again. It needs to be Destiny, but it needs to have its own identity that removes itself from this, because then it's just going to be, now we're just getting the same thing again. And how long until we get Vogue? How long until we get Deepstone Crypt, brought back? And it's and that's what worries me more than anything, is they're going to make a D3, but it's just going to be what D2 ended up being, where it's just this big amalgamation of 1 and 2, and we have the Cosmodrome and the moon, and sometimes there's parts of Mars and Venus that we visited. I don't know. I think if they're gonna do a D3, they need to really commit to it being its own thing completely. And I just don't think they're going to.
I have a crazy idea.
I'm listening.
What if Destiny 3 was like a gacha game where you got characters and you had fixed loadouts for all the characters, and it was playable on mobile.
Oh my god!
And it was called Destiny Rising.
Are you still playing that?
No.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been playing it. I can't get past the mobile thing.
Yeah,
but,
I can't either.
I do think Destiny Rising though does a lot of what you guys are talking about in like doing new and interesting things from the ground up.
Sure.
To be honest, and I mean, whatever you think about the game, I think there is some merit in there into potentially how you would go about doing a hard reset, so to speak.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that is the ultimate question right now is where do we possibly go from here, and how do we do it in a way that values people's time and also keeps things fresh and interesting. And I'm curious to see where they go with that. But anyways, I do want to shift gears a little bit.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go on the D3 tangent. It's just
we
it's
got
kind of
into
the hot topic
speculative
right
territory.
now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem with that whatsoever. I think it's important, and I think it's very telling that we started off talking about Lawless Frontier, and now we're talking about, where do we go from this point?
3?
Yeah,
exactly.
Where do we go? What's the future of this game? Because I think there's a little bit of, Renegades was good. I think unanimously everyone agreed that it's one of the better expansions we've had in a long time. Story was fun. The character, the elements, some of the activities surrounding it were solid. The lightsaber, I know everyone was kind of moaning and groaning, but it ended up sort of integrating into the Destiny world pretty organically.
I'm glad they got that very right, because that was one of the main things that people were like, what? There's just a lightsaber in this game now.
Right.
Yeah,
but
I was
it
impressed
works.
with that too.
But
at the end of the day, it's not like a game-changing, moving things forward. It's like it's a serviceable entry in the long list of Destiny expansions, but it still begs the question of when are we getting something that genuinely, fundamentally makes this game like something different again.
Right. And I think the portal was maybe one of the first steps in trying to answer that question, or at least it was trying to solve the accessibility problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. This kind of goes back to the D3 thing. I don't know what knobs you can turn in D2 that make it feel fresh and innovative, that aren't just making a new game. And we saw some of that stuff in like Edge of Fate with the Metroidvania type mechanics and the turning into a ball lightning and stuff, which I still stand by was pretty neat. And I enjoyed doing a campaign that was a little more puzzle solving than just straight action going from point A to point B and blasting everything along the way. I think this was, but unfortunately, a lot of the community did not like it and hated it. Unfortunately, I think part of that was I think on PC, the ball lightning ability was like really bad, and some people like literally could not play it because of how like ugly it sort of kind of made people, or how sick it made people feel from like motion sickness. But like they tried to make something that like felt like Destiny, but was still kind of like, oh, we're going in this kind of weird direction with like, we're trying to tell stories in different ways, and people did not like that. Yeah,
which is unfortunate, because I also really I thought Matterspark was cool.
Yeah, Matterspark, thank you.
Yeah. I thought it was neat. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the idea that they need to, the theme that they need to keep doing is just experimenting and doing weird, unconventional things, instead of just kind of regurgitating the same stuff.
I think the problem though is how many times can they do that and have a significant player base drop off each time, right? People have kind of looked at those graphs like it's a diminishing, where it's like, I don't know how many more times they can experiment before people are like, I'm over you experimenting, please don't do this anymore. Because it's like, even though it was good. I think a lot of people didn't like it, and it's a very subjective opinion on whether or not Matterspark.
I think they got the wrong message from. So what they did is they looked at the yearly expansion releases,
right?
Witch Queen, Lightfall, Final Shape, and they saw a gradual decline in each one, player base wise, sales wise, and they went, right, we need to change this up. And I would say at the time I agreed. But I don't think this works. I think for what they're offering, and what the game is, it doesn't work. This style of releasing, and they need to go back to doing a big showy offy story with a campaign.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think the reason for that drop off is over the years is fatigue of people playing the same game.
Right.
So it goes back to that release of expansion can work, but you need to do it with a new title.
Right. Yeah, I think it's this is one of those where it's like hindsight is 18/20 in this scenario, but it Final Shape should have been the end of D2 in terms of like introducing new story.
And then they announced D3. They announced D3.
Right. And what they could have and should have done is, and I think the community would have been on board with this, but you take those 3 seasons that we got during the year of the Final Shape and stretch those out as long as you need to kind of stall for time while you're getting D3, like the Rise of Iron type thing, right? Like have these expansions come out that are like, or not expansions, but these kind of seasonal things where it's like, okay, the story's not the best. We're just kind of wrapping up loose ends. We're not introducing new enemies or new villains, but let's have where we're finally taking out whatever her name is, Lakshmi, and like, really drawing those out as long as we need to. Let's go back to the Dreadnought for a while and screw around there, and like, but all the while they're working on D3 to make it, and that's where the Edge of Fate
they had so
started.
much goodwill built up from Final Shape. Like they had so much,
and I think everyone was kind of hoping that was going to be. I am not saying like I called it. I didn't really expect a D3 to be in the works. I think if it was at that time, there would have been something leaked. That's why I wasn't super hopeful. And I was still kind of on that train of like, I don't want VOG for the third time. Like, but I agree. I think that's where the inflection point should have been. That's where it should have been like, we're done with any new Light and Dark Saga type stuff in Destiny 2. And the new real story is going to start in D3. But for now, here's these kind of like power vacuum stories that we're going to get to kind of like stall out for time. I think people would have been all on board for that versus like, we're starting a new saga in D2. And it's like, still like, I think and it's starting to show the cracks in the system.
Scotty, what do you think?
I think that we should shift gears.
I knew that was coming.
That's fair.
If that's okay,
that's fine.
Should we talk about music? That's positive.
Yeah. Let's talk about music a little bit.
The music is fantastic.
Yeah,
I like it.
It is good. It's Star Wars without it being just Star Wars.
I prefer the I think I slightly prefer the Edge of Fate music.
I do really like the Edge of Fate soundtrack. I think there are some really good tracks there.
Slightly.
Yeah.
But I think for what Renegades was trying to do, I think they did a very good job with it.
Yeah.
Oh, there are multiple times in the soundtrack where I'm like, are you about to play the Force theme?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, you can definitely like there's those like,
I'm wondering if there was like a version of the song where it does go to the Force theme, and then they don't use it for obviously for reasons.
Can only imagine, because they do that like little, I don't know what the specific instrument is, but it's like, it's whatever that flute instrument is that's like, that kind of light, airy. I think you hear it like right when the opening credits load in every time, but it's like that is such a Star Wars-y, like every time you're on Tatooine, you hear that damn like flute line play. And it's fun. It definitely it perfectly kind of encapsulates that like Star Wars in Destiny feel, where even the music has that touch to it. And I think it's well executed. I think the Edge of Fate music probably is on the whole better, but it's another solid soundtrack. Like I feel like that time and time again cannot be disputed that like the music has always just been so kick-ass for this game. But it definitely, it feels like all they did was listen to a bunch of John Williams, and they're like, how do we recreate this?
Well, they had some of the people from Lucas, LucasArts,
Sure.
Who do the Star Wars game music,
Right?
So,
but it still feels like Destiny.
Oh yeah, totally.
At the end of the day,
it does, 100%.
It's a nice blend of the two. I think that's
yes.
So yeah,
I think so too.
There is a Star Wars motif in accidentally in a Destiny song, but they didn't actually have any in Renegade.
That's fair.
Yeah, but no,
I don't blame them.
Again, Renegades is a solid, all solid quality stuff.
Speaking of Renegades, this is technically part of Renegades, but it is a separate purchase, is the dungeon. So the dungeon came out, it's called Equilibrium. Very much a Renegades thing, but I don't think it's actually included with Renegades.
Is it not? Is it a separate purchase?
I don't think so. I think it's the dungeon key, right?
I thought they stopped doing dungeon.
Oh,
keys.
Did they? Okay, I honestly don't remember.
I'm like 99% sure they stopped doing.
Never mind then.
Because I'm looking at the Renegades page, and it's included with the purchase.
You've outed yourself.
I did.
There,
shit. So full disclosure, I think I forgot to mention this last episode. I did get Renegades for free from a Bungie employee.
Oh no! Right. See, I wasn't even talking about that. I was just saying that you outed yourself in that you aren't as involved in the game.
That is so true.
From your own volition, you have admitted to being a shill. No,
I'm a shill. I did not actually spend money on this expansion.
You have been paid by,
to say great, wonderful things about this game. No, but it does. I want to bring it up because it might influence take my opinion with a grain of salt, because I didn't actually spend money on the game, and it's a different vibe. You know, food always tastes better when it's free, kind of thing. You know,
right?
So, if I spent $40 on it, it might be a different story. Anyways, I did like the dungeon. That being said, I think the dungeon is very cool. And I think it does a lot of problems I've had with the previous, new dungeons, are kind of fixed this time around. For example, I feel like Vesper's Host would have been S tier dungeon if the final boss wasn't so tedious and long.
Right.
And in the lower stack.
Oh my god. But this time around, I think they do a lot of cool, interesting new things. Very fresh mechanics and fun mechanics. It's not repetitive. It's a little different every time, while still building on the previous encounters.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel tedious or anything like that. It's overall very, I think, a very streamlined, fun experience. They involve sparrows, basically, stuff like that. I think they did a good job with this one. My biggest complaint with it is just I feel like the aesthetic could have been more interesting and cool.
Yeah,
I think the ship, that most of the dungeon takes place on a Imperium ship, right? And it's kind of that's nothing we haven't seen before, right? It's just kind of it's a Cabal ship. Right. And it's of course inspired by the Death Star kind of vibe, which is just, it's a lot of gray. It's a lot of I don't know, just manufactured feel, intentionally.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it opened on Venus, which was so cool, and I'm like, yes, this is awesome. And then for the rest of the dungeon, it's just kind of just gray for the rest of it, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm on board the Almighty again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
But besides that, I think gameplay-wise, I think it was very cool. But what did you guys think? Because we got to play it together.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was a lot more enjoyable than Vesper's Host, definitely.
Yeah.
And it was a more just... I didn't feel like I was bashing my head against the wall. Like, not in a... It's difficult. It's that the mechanics are just long. Like, all right, I get that Shattered Throne was like a test. You know, it's the first dungeon they made. It was a test. But you compare what you've got to do for that, or even Prophecy, right, or Pit of Heresy.
Right.
The mechanics for the boss, what you've got to do to be able to get to damage phase, versus like Vesper, and it's like, oh, it's just such a slog.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So having it be a bit more straightforward in it was more refreshing.
Yeah.
It's still longer.
I suppose it's on the.
I would rather the dungeon be longer, like have an extra boss, than the mechanics be like over the top.
Yeah.
But that's me.
I think I agree with you that it's definitely not, like, I think Vesper's Host is probably in the echelon, probably like the most tedious, and just that the whole damage phase is just frustrating. And like, I still to this day am not really sure where you're supposed to stand and not just get completely annihilated if you're not running like multiple wells and healing rifts, where it's just like, it's not a fun damage cycle. And just the guys running around that are irradiated and physically can like block you from traversing the hallways is such a frustrating, like, it feels too random sometimes when you're trying to execute it, and it's like, we've died because there's like 3 in the hallway, and you just die before you can get out of their like range. Like they either need to be moving slower or not as like bulky, or like just everything about that fight is like frustrating. And I have a buddy who like Icebreaker is like his favorite weapon from D1, and he still doesn't have it in D2, and was like, oh, can we do another Vesper's Host run? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. Like I like you well enough that I'm willing to do this, but like I hate this dungeon, or at least this final boss, because it's like, it's not fun in my opinion. This is definitely much more of a engaging and fun final boss. I think sometimes the hand mechanic is a little, like, the fact that it can like zap you through walls is kind of silly and weird. Like yeah, that's exactly it, Scotty. I guess, bro. I think maybe the one thing I'm not a fan, like, I like the idea that you can regulate, so spoilers if you haven't done the dungeon yet, like, whatever, it's not even gonna make sense, but like, you kind of have agency over how long you want your damage phase to be versus how much damage you think you're going to accomplish. And I think that that's a really cool way to do it, and you're sort of like penalized if you don't hit threshold by having more of like the arc things all around. I would say, though, ultimately that arena is a little on the small side and kind of makes it frustrating when, okay, maybe you have a bad damage phase, right? Someone misses their too many shots, or like your super didn't go off the way you did, and now you're kind of like suffering. And I feel like you spend so much time trying to recover that sometimes it gets a little tedious on like the second damage phase. And then it's more of like a personal thing. That's like a get good bro kind of, aspect to it. But it's definitely, there's been times where like, it's so frustrating. And I do wish that you got to spend more time in each zone, because sometimes it feels like you're running around trying to get the buff, and then by the time you get the buff, you're teleported back to the other zone. You're like, I don't really need it here. And so it's these are like minor gripes in the big scheme of things, though. It's very easy to explain the mechanics. I think that's like the biggest thing, right? Is like, some like Vesper's Host is like, you have to do this, and then 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 finally you get to do damage. Whereas this, it's like pretty straightforward. It's like, we just have to kill the things and destroy the orbs, and then you can kind of like, as you're going through it, learn how to do it in a fairly quick way. So it's like quick to learn, difficult to master, which I think is more interesting than like difficult to learn and difficult to master, which is what I would say like Vesper's Host is. So Yeah, I overall I like it. I think thematically you're right, Scotty. Like it's kind of boring. I do like that when you first get on the ship and it's like we're gonna jump to hyperspace and there's that kind of cool like frazzling effect where it's like oh the you've gone into like warp, which is kind of neat, or light speed I should say. And the traversal is actually pretty fun. It's not too tedious either. Like some dungeons have really really long traversal sections. This is pretty short in the big scheme of things. And I do like that after you beat the second boss, like that other ship joins you like in orbit and then you like jump over to that one. Like, oh, that's kind of a big like set piece deal. And it's kind of fun. And like the actual like arena for like the final boss is pretty cool. But I kind of agree with you. I was hoping that it was going to be like, oh, we're going to go into this like Jedi temple type thing, and that's where the dungeon was going to take place. Yeah. But I mean, kind of in the sense, what was the last dungeon that we had? The where it's like truths and lies that you have to like shoot the symbols.
Sunder Doctrine.
Sunder Doctrine. That all kind of took place in like a temple. So like to have two of them in a very similar set piece, like, you know, it's like a bunch of like overgrown buildings and ruins and things like that. Like it would have felt, I think, too samey.
True point. Yeah.
But I when I saw like kind of the early screenshots and they showed it's like, oh, on the jungles of Venus, I was like, oh, cool. It's going to be like a dungeon on Venus. Like that's exciting. And it's like, no, you're there for like 5 minutes and then you immediately go into space. And so.
And I was like, oh, okay. I will say I am so happy that they made a human as the final boss.
Yes.
Like we get to fight an actual person instead of like, oh, a fallen captain or some shit like that, right?
Or another cabal. Like
I'm so sick of that. So the fact that they finally did something like
that was cool.
Human boss is awesome. So getting to fight a dredgen was sick. Honestly, I'm so glad they did that. Especially after Renegades kind of like blue balls you, where you're like, oh, we get to fight Dredgen Bale, and then they're like, no, actually, you get to fight this Cabal dude again, and you're like, oh, okay, sure. So this was very very cool, and I do think the boss is very neat, and it's just. Yeah, I mean, it's less tedious than the previous ones. It has that core mechanic of like the whatever it's called, the Shadow Force power.
Right.
Is very cool. And it builds upon it every encounter without it feeling like samey and things like that. Because like you guys know, I hate Grasp of Avarice with a burning passion, and like one of my biggest gripes with that dungeon is like, oh, it's you pick up a thing, you dunk it, and you do that for the entire dungeon, and stuff like that is just like
it's just Gambit,
So it's so repetitive, and I'm totally cool with them having a core mechanic as long as it's different every time,
right.
And I think this dungeon does a good job of that. I think it's very very cool, and it gets progressively more complex and interesting, and I love that I love when they incorporate like sparrows and stuff, even if it's just like a small part of it, but that opening encounter is super cool. And I think we talked about this when we played it, but I know you guys are convinced that they're going to bring back Sparrow Racing League because they had a speedometer on the
I
am. They're gonna lock it behind like an event or something.
True. It'll be.
But but it should be. It shouldn't be like a just here, have it in the game. It should be it comes out, once every 2 months.
Yeah, as long as it's on a regular basis. Iron Banner, not having that for 6 months, or what's the Heavy Metal? Like I was hoping that they were going to have that come out on a fairly regular, but we've had it twice now. Like,
I think only twice.
And I
I reckon that was a test for Sparrow Racing.
You guys are so
in
like copium.
No. As in how they distribute like an event.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. These are but it's like
in that sense, not. Oh, they were testing bricks for Sparrows.
No. But it's like
that.
But they.
I mean, we're bringing out a vehicle-based event. How many people play it this time? How many people played it the next time? Right. will this impact events going forward? So like Iron Banner,
Right.
or-
Well, and are
oh
people
wow, they bring
paying
back Crimson
for
Days.
the thingamabobs for it too, right? Is there money to be made with this?
Mm-hmm.
This is the problem is though is they don't ever innovate on this shit, and this is what bothers me time and time again. It's like they'll do something, it's pretty cool, there's feedback, and then seldom do they like go back and change things on it. Like you know what would be great in heavy metal is if the next time they did it, it was like, oh, there's a behemoth variant, because now that's another walking armored vehicle that we have in the game that would, I don't know, work perfectly with tanks and other walking like mech things. Like have a 3v3v3 or just have it be tanks versus behemoths, right? Like you have it changed up, but like no, we haven't seen anything like that, but that would be perfect to do something like that. It's that's the part that's like frustrating, where it's like they'll do something and they'll abandon it, and then it's like, but it was cool, and maybe it could have gotten better if you worked on it or like got feedback from people of like what didn't work, what worked. Well, the balance, like it felt like the brigs were way more OP than the tanks. Okay, well, can we do something about that? Can we iterate on it a little bit more? But no, we're just gonna not have it back again. And it's like, why? Like, because
what if there was one where instead of a tank, you're on your Sparrow, and instead of shooting at each other, you drove
around a lap track, and whoever got there first.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
No, but it is odd that they put the speedometer in there, which does nothing to the actual like.
It doesn't need
right?
to
It's
be
not
there.
like
It doesn't need to be there,
right.
Scotty. I know it's cope, but it doesn't need to be.
But no,
there.
but if there was
that speedometer. We could have had that Sparrow bit. Like, look, they didn't add the speedometer for the Sparrow section in Grasp, did they?
No, you're right. You're right.
Right,
it's true.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with Map on the copium train on this one.
I've
hopium,
got
like
the fattest bong with all of the copium, in it, and I am inhaling
but it's like
it all.
it'd be one thing if in the campaign when you're on doing like that Sparrow sequence where like the drifter's like, oh kid, you're gonna have to keep it over 100 kilometers per hour to be able to make that jump, right? And then there's like, oh, you have to like time it in such a way that you like bank a number of those ramps to get your speed up or something.
You make a jump,
right?
And you
then
go,
you actually
woo,
have to
I made
care,
it,
right?
and
Then you actually have to care about your speedometer, but there was literally no reason for it to be in there other than, hey,
you make a jump,
right.
and you go, woo, I made it, and Drifter goes, hey kid, don't get
right.
cocky.
But it's like, why would you go through the effort of putting that in your user interface if you're not bringing back SRL? I'm 100% with Map on this.
Valid. I see the vision here.
That democracy in its finest form.
That's so valid.
As
What do you guys think?
As someone who still plays SRL sometimes in D1, I want it back so bad.
Who are you racing against in Sparrow Racing League?
I just do like time trials.
His demons.
Because you can still, it still loads in like the Vex that are just like out in the fields. You can like run them over. But I just like I like doing it. The music's pretty cool. The tracks are fun. Like, I don't know. It's something different. It's something different. That's the key term here. Is just it's something different to do in Destiny that actually played really well. I think the tracks were designed pretty well, except for that damn forklift. And it's not like anything else that we got in the game. And when those 2 or 3 weeks that it was out each time, you bet your ass I was nonstop playing that because it was fun. And I don't know.
Do you think there's like any employee at Bungie like sitting down and like every now and then they get like a little ping on their desktop that's like one person is loaded into Sparrow Racing League?
I hope so. Oh God, I hope so.
It
would make me so happy
you every time.
Everyone's like, take a shot every time.
Yeah,
the one Sparrow Racing League guy walks in.
It might just be me. They're like, oh, Blue's on.
There he is. That's my guy.
Yeah,
that's funny. Where do you guys think Equilibrium ranks among the other dungeons? Do you guys think it's like up there, or is it kind of
there's so many
middling tier one? I know there's more and more. It gets harder and harder every time more dungeons drop.
I gotta look at.
I think it's like an A tier dungeon. I think it's up there. I don't think it's like my favorite, but it's pretty solid.
Okay, so I'm gonna read them all off now. So we have Shattered Throne, Pit
Garbage.
of Heresy, Prophecy,
Peak.
Grasp of Avarice,
Terrible.
Shut up,
Terrible.
Scott. Duality, Spire of the
Oh, you
Watcher,
really don't like him, do you?
Ghosts of the Deep, Warlord's Ruin, Vesper's Host, Sundered Doctrine, and Equilibrium.
Right, Ghosts of the Deep is way down at the bottom. That can be binged.
No, I agree. Like, the traversal sections suck. The boss mechanics for the final fight are just miserable. But thematically, I think it's my favorite dungeon because you're like doing this huge deep dive, and then the punchline is they're trying to resurrect orcs, which is, I still think, like, the coolest fucking idea ever, and you stop it. But everything leading up to that is miserable, and I never want to do it again. Like, the first time when you're down there and his corpse is at the bottom of the ocean and it's like half buried, that is so cool. And like you're literally like,
and it plays. You walk around the corner and it plays
the Regicide theme or
right.
whatever. And,
It's so cool.
Regicide motif.
But I never want to play that dungeon again. And the
just me
trace
in the
rifle from it is an orca, which is awesome.
Oh.
Yeah, the navigator, if you look at the side profile, it's got a killer whale on it.
I wouldn't know. I don't have it.
Oh.
That's okay. I think... God. This is hard. The more they keeps coming out. I think Warlord's Ruin is still my favorite.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
I kind of forgot about that. I can't lie.
I think just like aesthetically, I think it's awesome. I think every encounter is like super unique and different. The only thing that's like holding me back is like in that final boss fight, the whole punching mechanic is goofy.
Yeah, I don't like how quickly they can tag back.
Yeah. That one's a little scuffed. I don't know how I feel about that, but the rest of it is really good.
Yep.
Sunder Doctrine I think is pretty good too, to be honest with you. I like that one.
Yep.
Quite a bit. I think that
I
one's
agree.
fun. It's a little long. It's a little on the longer side, but I think it's cool.
I think the locks mechanic on the second boss are not super straightforward.
Oh,
like it's always just kind of like awkward. Like I feel like we're not doing it right, and then you just go to damage, and it's like I don't know how long it lasted. Like
I don't even know how we got here, but we're doing damage
exactly.
now.
Yeah, I feel like in the number of times that I've done that dungeon, I've never actually learned or understood completely how that mechanics work. And interestingly enough, that scout rifle from that dungeon's like one of my favorites. The Unworthy. I think the weapons from that dungeon in general are pretty cool.
The weapons are great.
Like
the hand cannon is awesome.
The strand cannon's pretty cool, and
that one's pretty sweet. I think aesthetically that one's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Like exploring like the temple and the throne
and there's
world,
like
is pretty dope.
Like the worm skeleton is pretty neat, and
the music's
pretty good.
Music's good. It's the only.
I think it's the best dungeon music.
You might be right.
That's fair.
In a while.
That's fair.
In a while.
Sure.
From Sundered Doctrine, I think for a while there wasn't as much like hype.
Yeah.
Like Spire the Watcher. Yeah. The music, it's not bad. It's
Spire
fine,
Spire the Watcher. I don't like the final boss that much.
I cannot stand the final boss. The final boss is just. It's just,
I wonder about the music and stuff in it.
The music is cool.
Yeah. The location.
I like the environment.
Yeah, the location's very unique.
like the environment.
It's like an old, Seraph installation. Like the story on that one's pretty fun.
It is cool with the what is the AI called? But yeah, that whole thing is cool.
Yeah. Duality. Sorry.
Duality.
Finish your thought on Spire.
Oh, I was just gonna say Spire has the same problem that I have with all the dungeons that I hate, where it's just like, okay, here's the mechanic, and now do that every time.
Yeah.
But
most dungeons do that, right? Where it's like it's one mechanic and you iterate on it each time, versus like raids where each encounter has like a different.
Kind of, but like Spire, Grasp, and Prophecy are like my three of my least favorites, and they all have that problem where it's just like, here's the one mechanic you're gonna do, and then we're barely going to iterate on it every time. And it's like just rinse and repeat all throughout. And I feel like some of the dungeons that I really like, I feel like do it in a more interesting way, even if they have a similar mechanic.
That's fair.
But like Sunder Doctrine, for example, is, I feel like, completely different every time.
Yeah, it iterates on the idea of the lie and that concept pretty well.
But at the same time, it's like the lamppost encounter is way different than like the locksmith encounter.
Sure. That's
and
fair.
you're doing two completely different things.
Right.
That being said, that does remind me of the thing that I absolutely despise about Sunder Doctrine, which is figuring out how to do the final boss makes absolutely no sense from like a puzzle perspective.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
they establish the truth and lie thing, and then in the final boss, you're like, yeah, actually just reverse it for no reason.
Right. Yeah, you're trying to do the lies instead of the truths. Well, and that's the problem I have with duality, is that you need to punch the lanterns in the final fight, and it does a different effect than it does. Like you punch them so you can stay in the realm to do damage, but everything up to that point, you're punching the lanterns to swap realms. And it's like, why is it different in the final fight? Like,
I get that.
That like, it almost feels like what they should do is like you swap, and then you need to shoot the lanterns to get back into the dungeon, like the damage mechanic part or something. Like, then it would make sense. It's just, it's not intuitive, and we were really struggling that first day because it's like, no, you only shoot the bells to swap realms. Why would it make to extend it? What? Like, yeah. Yeah, duality's fine. I ran it a lot because that was when you could run it on Master to get the Artifice armor pretty easily from the final fight. So I have run probably that dungeon boss more than any other one, and I just kind of don't like it that much. Like I'm sort of over it.
Burned
But
yourself out on
I
it,
think
yeah.
I like I kind of like the thematic, like you're going into like the nightmares of what's his face, Callus, and you you fight Keitel, like, because it's like his biggest like fear slash, which is kind of funny that it like that's what ended up happening. She overthrew his reign. So I like Grasp of Avarice just to kind of contend against Scotty, but I do completely acknowledge that second encounter, that Fallen Shield, is just stupid. I don't like that you're completely at the mercy of this kind of tedious traversal. If it was easier to move around that area, I think it, and no mechanic should ever be dependent on you pushing a ball around, because I think that completely, like, to have it roll off the side sometimes is so frustrating that it definitely does kind of kill it a little bit. So, I like the kind of pirate theme, and I like the sparrow racing part of it. But I acknowledge that it's not a good dungeon overall, but I still like it.
That's fair.
Prophecy, I like the aesthetic of that a lot. I agree the mechanics get pretty old pretty quick.
I think it's just that middle encounter that kind of kills the pacing.
Yeah.
The hexahedron does not get any faster no matter how good you are at that encounter.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like drags. It's like you have to do it like 6 cycles of it or whatever.
Yeah, and I think you could do like 3 or 4 and get the point across. Like, doing it that many times is pretty rough. I also, the Rainbow Road area sometimes gets a little...
I suck at that part.
But that I think is more of a function of having a 40-second timer when you die.
Is the 45-second timer.
Yeah,
so
that's
bad.
that's what actually. And to this day, I still don't understand why it's 45 seconds for like traversal sections. Like, that kills kills the fun so quickly.
It does.
And then Pit of Heresy. The Necropolis area is kind of
it's a tough opening. The opening is long. But...
Yeah, I don't like the maze. I don't like that the ogres are like immune. And I don't like the maze section with like the spiky wheels.
I don't mind it. It's just more of a. At least it's over quickly.
Yeah.
You know. Like a lot of the other dungeons now, they long out their, platforming sections.
Yeah.
And I like platforming.
Yeah.
But
and it was the second dungeon, so it's like they were still figuring things out. Like, I think the final boss is pretty cool though. Like the
Oh, the music.
Yeah, the music. The music's pretty cool.
It's so good.
I've always liked Pit of Heresy. I've always been like a Pit of Heresy defender.
That's fair.
Heretical or whatever it is, Omen or whatever the name of the track.
Yes,
so
it's
good.
pretty good. I think low key. I think a lot of stuff from Shadowkeep I know people don't like, but there's some really cool. I think the music's really solid. I do think I'm always going to be the defender or apologist of like, I think the game is best when it iterates on previous locations, and I think Shadowkeep did the best job of that. Of like, yes, we went back to the moon, and it is reusing certain things, but you have to admit, like, kind of with like the big giant crags and big parts of it like splitting open, and now there's this big temple there, like that was cool, and it kind of shows like, okay, this is what happens after the effects of like us not patrolling the moon anymore. Is the Hive have sort of like taken over in a different way, like. I do like Shadowkeep. I know people like it's short, and it was reusing a different area, but I think I would prefer that we iterate on locations versus getting new locations that then they don't do anything with. Like, I like seeing the world changing and evolving, like in the same way when we went back to the Cosmic or to the Leviathan, or I'm sorry, not the Leviathan, the Dreadnought. There's too many ships now. I can't remember. They're all just giant ancient beasts. But
no more ships in Destiny.
Yeah, no more ships. I can't remember names of weapons, and I'm getting too old, guys. But it's like going back to the Dreadnought and seeing like the skin peeling off of it, and it's like gross and kind of like falling apart in its own way. Like, that was really cool. And in the same way that seeing Shadowkeep, like, oh, the moon has changed since we were here last, I think is really cool. So I there's parts of Pit of Heresy that I like. I just feel like some of the traversals, again, I think the problem is the 45-second timer when a lot of the encounters are just doing like traversal kills it for me. When it's like, these don't need to be darkness zones, or like they don't need to be 45-second timers when we're just trying to run around and find a Hive wizard to kill. Like, this isn't like a boss encounter, or like what is the encounter like right after you traverse the maze where you have to like stand on the platforms and like kill the guys and like collect their things to dunk them or whatever. Like, that whole area, like, that's fine. Make that be a like kind of a tough fight and have a 45-second timer there. But when you're doing the other maze part where you're just running around trying to find like the 3 Hive wizards, it does not need to be a 45-second timer. I'll die on that hill. But
I agree.
All right, so then we have Shattered Throne.
Unfortunately, it's terrible.
No,
really,
it's so bad. It just like, it used to be really cool when it first came out. It was awesome. It has not. Yeah, it has not aged well.
I just like the fact that it's a dungeon. I mean, I have no reason to play it, but I can just go in, turn my brain off, and do it. But not in a bad way. As in, it's like, oh, it's too easy to, that's not a dungeon. You can turn your brain off and do it. But it's just like, I could go into it solo and just enjoy running around killing a big ogre, and then like easily killing 3, headless knights, and then the boss. I like the music as well. The music's very good. Keeper Voices is great, and I just like the environment. I remember the first time doing it, being under-leveled with my friend who we two-manned.
That's cool.
But we went through it really slowly. We explored every like fucking nook and cranny of the place, because obviously Dreaming City and stuff. And I really like it.
Cool. I kind of agree with you. I think the opening part is a little tedious, where like I feel like you need a map. Long. I mean, if you know where every like the infinity.
I know where they all are now. I know where they all are now.
But yeah, when you're first kind of doing it, like you pulling up a map, and I feel like it's a little too big for what it's trying to accomplish. When it's just like, okay, I just need to find the Hive or the Taken captain that's here, and it's telling me where to go next. Like, it's not really that complicated of a mechanic, but it's fine. I do think Duel Karu's kind of a cool final boss. Like, it's not overly mechanic heavy, and it's kind of, you can like sneeze on her now and she dies, but it was kind of cool at the beginning where it's like it's this really small cramped room and you have 3 knights that are just trying to wreck your shit. And I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's the first dungeon. They were trying to figure out like how complicated do we make the mechanics, and how difficult do we make it? How much do we make the traversal sections? I think the traversal sections are pretty cool. It's
The
fun.
throwaway is cool.
Yeah, the throwaway. Yeah, the sort of infamous throwaway. But it's not the worst. We didn't really talk about Vesper's Host. I know we kind of did earlier with the final boss, but how do you guys feel about that?
Because it's in the lower stacks.
The thing is in the lower stacks.
That thing is in the lower stacks. Vesper's Host was my absolute favorite dungeon right until the boss fight, and then I'm like, I take it all back.
Right, I enjoy the boss fight more than the rest of the dungeon. However, the to get to the DPS is long as fuck.
It's too long. It's way
too
too
long.
long. It's twice as long as it needs to be.
It should just be one. It should just be one.
That would be, it's a simple fix, but it's just like it's so tedious, and you just need to do one lower stacks session, and then
once you realize you've done all the thing, and then you have to go traverse to the other side through that little like mine maze, and it's just like, oh, well, and then you got to do it all over again, and it's just.
I'm gonna have that written on my gravestone.
That thing is in the lower stacks.
I know you guys know, but in case the listeners don't know, I did change my Bungie username to thing in the lower stacks.
I know, and it makes me so happy that you did. It's just funny that all fits. Like, it
all fits.
Yeah, it's
you're down there.
I think Vesper's Host, the first encounter is pretty cool. It's nothing crazy tedious. I think it iterates on the scanner operator. I think I don't like the second encounter probably the most because I just don't
the servitor.
Like, yeah, I just don't.
Wait, no, is that
the servitor? Like how it like splits apart, and I don't like the damage windows like so incredibly tight, and it's like it's one of those where it feels like, and I'm this is another get good thing, but it feels like most of the time like the only viable damage option is something that like feels cheesy to do, and the fact that like tether was disabled on it for like most of the duration that dungeon where people were running is just kind of like, if you don't want people using something like tether or it's not buggy, then you should maybe redesign the boss so that that's not the problem. Like it just like it's cool that we got like a servitor dungeon boss, but it just I think was poorly implemented and executed, and it's just kind of one of those where it's like at least getting to damage is pretty quick. You can it is kind of frustrating that you have to wait a long time for that guy to finally show up so that you can get teleported to read him. But it's not the worst dungeon in the world, but that final boss does kind of the momentum of that just halts so quickly. When the traversal section to the final boss is pretty cool when you're kind of doing like that spacewalk and there's just like lightning bolts coming down and it's like thematically it's cool, but that's the problem with a lot of these dungeons. Like same with like Ghosts of the Deep, thematically it's cool as hell, but it becomes tedious after your second, third, fourth playthrough where you're like, okay, I get it. Yeah. I don't like traveling underwater for 10 minutes. It still kind of baffles me that there isn't some kind of like, if you've completed a dungeon 5 times, you can just skip traversal sections. Like you can opt to not, so you can get the secret chests. But if I just want to do the completions of the encounters, like I should be able to just skip to them. Like I've earned that privilege if I've done it 5 or 10 times. And like the immersion kind of just gets old after a while. Yeah, I agree. So my tier list quickly. I'm going to say Warlord's Ruin is my S tier. Okay. I'm going to say A tier, Pit of Heresy and Sunder Doctrine. I know that's crazy. That's my A tier. And I'll probably put Equilibrium in there as well. Okay. B tier, Vesper's Host and Duality. Vesper's Host would be S tier if the boss fight wasn't so tedious. Yeah. But it literally gets dropped down 2 tiers because of that. C tier, I'm putting Ghosts, Spire, and Prophecy. And then D tier, I'm sorry, but I'm putting Shattered Throne in D tier, along with Grasp of Avarice. Yeah, I thought F would be Grasp for you.
Yeah, it might as well be. I mean, if there was an F tier, I could make an F tier and put Grasp in there.
That's fair.
What about you guys?
This is I don't like have a quote unquote favorite dungeon, if that makes sense. I feel like they're just I either like them or I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm like, yeah. I think I just don't like Ghost of the Deep.
Yeah,
That's totally fair.
I just don't like it. The others aren't objectively bad. It's just like getting to mechanics in Vesper's Host is kind of long, but just like weapons, I'm not going to bother with the other tiers.
That's fair. I think, I have kind of a weird, like, ideology or approach to this. Like, I think, like, I've had fun taking people through Prophecy and Grasp because I think those are good introductory dungeons because they are very, very easy to grasp mechanics that you don't like, something like Ghost of the Deep where you're spending more time explaining what to do than actually doing it, because there's like, first you have to do this and you have to like look at the thing through this, and then you have to go figure out which symbol to go to, and then we have to go in the 3 rooms and then figure out which one has each symbol, and then you do it, and then you break the shield, and then you can do damage for like 5 seconds, and then you have to do it all over again. Like, that sucks to try to explain, whereas like unfortunately Grasp of Avarice is like, okay, we're just gonna continue to play Gambit here and dunk them in the center, and then we just do damage. Like, if you're trying to just get someone like into playing a dungeon, I think Grasp and Prophecy are perfect for that. But they're definitely not like my favorite in terms of like, what do I like playing over and over again? I think I agree with you, Scotty, that Warlord's Ruin and Sundered Doctrine are kind of the cooler, I think, just like locations. Like Warlord's Ruin, you're like exploring this castle, and I even like the sequence where you're like in prison and you have to kind of solve a puzzle to like get out. Like that's pretty cool. Like I think it's done pretty well. Heffend is kind of a neat boss, other than the punching mechanic thing, which I think the game, it could have done without that. It's just like they're like, oh, we have to add something to the mechanic once we're here. You gotta punch something so you can get your debuff off, and it's like it's not done well. It feels like an afterthought. Yeah. I would then probably put, I think I agree with you, like Ghost of the Deep is probably the one I want to play the least amount, but I have to give it like, from like a narrative or like storytelling, that's like S++ in my opinion, but cool story and fun gameplay do not necessarily equal each other. I kind of agree with you too, Map, where it's like I have the ones that I like to play, like Warlords and Sundered, and then the rest of them are kind of just in the noise, in terms of like, yeah, I'll run Aspire with people if someone needs something from there, or I'll do a Vespers post once in a while if someone wants to try to get Icebreaker. Pit of Heresy I haven't done in a long time. I have a buddy who's still trying to get what's the exotic LMG from that, where it's like the bug inside it. Xenophage. Like, so someone needs to do the Xenophage quest. Yeah, I'll run a Pit of Heresy. Like, that's cool. Yeah. Shattered Throne, like,
I'd run it for the. I can't lie. I'd run Pit just to do the boss fight.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an awesome puzzle.
Like, some of those earlier dungeons, I actually kind of like because they're not as tedious.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about like Shattered Throne.
Yeah, like you said, you can shut your brain off. It's almost like a slightly difficult strike, kind of like that's where you're at with it. Like, and that's
like an exotic mission.
Fine.
How they are
like,
now.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't need to be some insanely difficult thing. Do I think some of the more engaging things like Warlord's Ruin? Yeah, I think there's some value in those, and that's why I think for like replay value, I think those are higher. But I definitely like it's going to take a lot for me to want to do a Ghost of the Deep again, just because even if it's like, oh, for old time's sake, I haven't done the swimming traversal section in a long time. The moment you dunk down in the water and you're trying to find water bubbles, you're like, nah, I'm good. Like I just, but I do like that the Lucent Brood are in there. I like,
they're fun to fight.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those like enemy types where it's like I wish they kept popping up, and I know like we're kind of sort of pseudo allies with them now, but like that felt like such a missed opportunity to have more. Like I thought we were gonna get a full suite of like light bearing hive. Like eventually we were gonna get wizards that could also do solar and void damage, right? Like I thought we were gonna get kind of like every permutation, and a knight that could like thunder crash. Like that seems kind of awesome and scary, or like that'd be sick. Like an acolyte that has like a tether type thing, right, where it casts some kind of like, I was hoping we were going to iterate on that more. Again, they come out with a cool idea and then they never go back to it or touch it again. But
story of their life.
But yeah, Equilibrium's good. I think it has a lot of replay value. It's still the most fresh. But in terms of like, this boss is so tedious that I don't ever want to do it. Like in terms of Ghost of the Deep, I think it ranks way higher. And it's a pretty solid dungeon.
I think so too. It's not like a huge standout, but I feel like it's pretty well polished compared to some of the other ones.
Yes. The mechanics are kind of somewhere in the middle. So
I think that about covers it. If we want to go hop on and play some Destiny.
Yep. Let's do it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you guys for listening. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you guys for listening. As always, we are going to go jump on Twitch and stream some Destiny. So, I'm sure there'll be a VOD afterwards. So, go check that out. This podcast episode is obviously not going to come out before we stream because we're going to do it right now. But please, go follow that page. Go follow our YouTube as well. And without further ado, we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You can put this voice recording away and go on with your life, because you and I both know you'd have me yapping in your ear for the rest of your days.
Want to further the discussion? Get in touch with us at any of our Twitter handles, all of which can be found at our podcast description.